Okay, following on from the previous lecture then, so we looked mainly at the definitions of physical literacy, some of the sort of current misconceptions. This lecture, a little bit more around the background to it, the philosophy. So I think that the main point, although probably it's become a buzzword in the last 5 years, physical literacy, it's nothing new. It's not a new concept. So you can see the quote there, or the citation by Murray in 1994, Wall and Murray 1994, based on Morrison 1969, that they were talking about physical literacy then, so 45 years ago. So it's not something new. It's been around for a long time, but it's only now that we've probably used it to try and sort of get our own way, or tried to use it as an agenda, because it probably sounds, physical literacy, the physical element literacy. It suggests it's about reading and thinking, so it probably has a bit more credibility than physical fitness or physical education or physical activity. So that's the reason lots of organisations have started to use it. I think although it has become confused, it's been misinterpreted, it's been misconstrued, it's not difficult. Like the picture says on my left, it does exactly what it says on the tip. Physical literacy, it's about making people or developing someone's physical literacy journey. So we're developing them physically, but we're also developing them in terms of literacy. However, we need to be careful with the interpretation of literacy, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. Okay, right, this is the philosophical bit. Now just bear with me on this one. It's not meant to trip you up or confuse you. Anyone that reads Margaret Whitehead's book on physical literacy, anyone that reads a paper that Margaret has written, she was a professor of philosophy at Cambridge University. So her reading, her original concept for this is based in or rooted in philosophy. So anyone that reads the initial work that was done in physical literacy, we talk about things around corporal, motile, somatic and embodied literacy. To make it simple for you guys, to make it easy to interpret, basically all of those, what they mean, embodied literacy means within our own individual person, we have all got the capacity to do whatever we want. And it's how we develop that and how we bring that out. So it's just talking about us as individuals. How has that developed and moved on? So again, we looked at some of the definitions last week. We looked at some of the terminology. So we've moved now to use terms such as movement literacy, games, athletic, aesthetic and health literacy. So again, it's just making sure we don't, although these terms are used interchangeably to represent physical literacy, it's just making sure that we're not moving too far away from the original definition. So that's what I mean for the conformist. That's what we used initially. The non-conformist, so we come into a new age now and we're starting to use different terminology to represent physical literacy. And I suppose my issue is that all of the terminology we use, it should be in alignment. It should have a similar connotation or representation. However, what we tend to find is that different organisations, whether you're from physical education, health, government, coaching, they will have a slightly different twist on the terminology, and different countries, depending on what they want physical literacy to represent. So for me, I think the problem is physical literacy has become a buzzword because it sounds credible. Right, we're going to make people more physically literate, although we can't do that. So it's got the physical connotation around becoming more physical, but it's also got the literacy connotation around, which makes us think about the cognitive, the thinking, the knowledge, the understanding. So it's probably got a little bit more clout in certain circles to push physical education or physical activity or sport to the forefront. So it's not a buzzword, but also it's not a springboard. So if you think back to the previous lecture, and I talked about the Welsh Government and the Youth Sport Trust and the Northern Ireland Government using physical literacy as almost a term to represent what physical education or what physical activity could look like. So it shouldn't be used as a political agenda. It shouldn't be used as an agenda for elite sport. It shouldn't be used as an agenda for coaching. So we just got to be careful that we don't just use it as a springboard to get for an organisation to get what they want from something. So there's all these mixed messages, and I suppose my concern for you guys is that it's not lost in translation. That if you are trying to develop young children in terms of their physical literacy, when you go into schools, you're not delivering a physical literacy program. You're not making young children physically literate. You recognise that you're going in there, you're delivering PE, you're delivering sports coaching, but you're delivering high quality PE and high quality coaching, and the outcome of both of those is that you are contributing to a young person or an individual's physical literacy journey. And that's the message that you need to understand.